Hello, everybody. Hello. Okay, people, today we are going to get into it. We are going to be talking all about shadow work. And specifically, I'm wanting to talk about shadow work in a way that is practical, that is accessible, and actionable, because a lot of shit is talked about shadow work. It's one of these things that's become a buzzword where people are like, I've been doing my shadow work. I love doing shadow work. I'm doing my shadow. And then all you see is like journal prompts and shit. So in this video, I want to talk to you guys about my approach to shadow work, the approach that I wrote about in this, which is my fourth book. It's called Shadow Work for Hot Messes: Transform from Chaos to Clarity by Embracing Your Authentic Self. Okay. Now, I wrote this book because there are two questions about shadow work that I see time and time again that are not answered. And I don't want anyone to have these questions ever again as long as this book exists. Okay. So those two questions are how to start and how to integrate. There is a painful lack of information out there on how to integrate. And I actually don't think it has to be that hard. And I don't think that shadow work has to be something that is like super agonizing, right? I think it's one of these things where people can get this like inflated sense of like, oh, I'm doing something really like mystical or really this and that. It's actually fairly easy. So if you're here, feel free to pop in the chat, say hello. You guys, I just wanted to say that I feel so supported here on YouTube right now because I am, as you guys know, like a Instagram, Facebook refugee here. And so I haven't paid much attention to YouTube. Like my channel not even monetized. Like I've been on here for years and I've got paid no attention to it. And now that I am paying attention to it, I'm feeling so supported because you guys have come here, you've been commenting, you've been liking, you've been subscribing, all of that sort of stuff. And it's really great for me creatively to be able to actually speak long form, speak the way I speak, talk the way I talk without having to worry about 3-second fucking attention spans. You know, those short form platforms can destroy and erode your self-esteem because they can make you think that if you can't boil your message down, which is something that I vehemently am opposed to, that people don't want to hear it. Now, since moving to YouTube, I will say that limiting belief has been absolutely fucking busted. And so I just wanted to give you guys a thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's been sharing my videos. Thank you to everybody who's been liking my videos. Friendly reminder to like this one, guys. And friendly reminder to subscribe to this channel. So today, this is what we are going to be talking about. And feel free to pop your questions in the chat, pop your thoughts in the chat, all of that. It's all very helpful for me. But look at this. I'm a Virgo, okay? I'm a Virgo with ADHD. And when we get the whiteboard out, we know shit's getting serious. So today we are going to be talking about shadow work and demystifying the process. Quit circle jerking your demons. I'm going to bring the cringe because I'm going to use my own life as an example, but stay tuned because this is what we are covering today. Okay? Shadow shit. We're going to be talking about shadow shit. Okay? We are going to be talking about the way that I specifically work with people when it comes to shadow work, which is bullshit free, and the approach that informed my book. Shameless plug for my book, Shadow Work for Hot Messes. So we are going to be talking about the 3 phases of shadow work because for my brain, it's really helpful for me to be able to explain things to people if I separate them into categories. That's a pattern recognition thing. It's okay. I love that about myself. 3 phases: perception, investigation, integration. Then we are going to talk about the function of behavior. You guys, this shit is so fucking interesting to me. So my prior career was in community inclusion for developmentally disabled adults. Okay. My degree is in psychology. I really loved that career. I had to leave with PTSD. It's all good. We're fine now. I'm an author. It's great. Whatever. Like life takes you to some strange places. But we are going to talk about the function of behavior and what this means for your shadow work. Then we're going to talk about the ABC model of behavior. So some of you might be familiar with that. If you are, feel free to pop it below. But we're going to talk about how you can use the ABC model of behavior to help adjust or change shadowy behaviors that you're looking to adjust or change. Okay. So this is actionable. This is practical. This is fucking easy. Literally 3 steps. Okay. 3 steps. Even I can remember it. Then we're going to talk about integration, self-acceptance, healing hangovers. So I'll let you guys know what that is at the end, because that's something that a lot of people in the spiritual world, a lot of people in the healing world are suffering from healing hangovers without realizing that's what this is, but it is. Okay. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. If you guys have any questions, anything, feel free to pop it in the chat. I love interacting with you guys. This is like literally my favorite thing. I feel like I could go live every fucking day, terrorizing the entire world. So whiteboard, you can go over here. Now I'm going to also be using myself as an example for shadow work examples, right? So it's really hard for me to, I can't speak for everybody. And I'm definitely the kind of person that even in all of my teaching philosophy, everything is that no one size fits all approach is going to work for everybody. Okay. So that just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, whether it comes to your witchcraft, your spirituality, your healing, your growth, whatever. Like there's never going to be a one size fits all approach. So all I can do, the only thing I'm an actual expert in is myself. Okay. We are all the best, biggest, brightest experts of ourselves, but we tend to outsource our authority. We tend to assume that somebody else has the answers, and that's not the case. So when it comes to shadow work, I'm going to tell you guys about the 3 revelations that changed everything in my fucking life, and I mean it. And these might be triggering to people. So if you guys feel activated by these things, if you guys want to yell at me about these things, please feel free to do so in the comments, because it helps my channel. But I will tell you, if you can have a little bit of psychic openness to them, you might find that you can understand a little bit better some of the concepts that I'm talking about here. Does that sound good to everybody? Oh my God. Hi, Nicole. Hi, April. Hi, Sarah. White Stag Tarot. I don't actually know your name, so hello to you. Marsha, hello. Seneca, hello. Circle jerking your demons. Yes. Okay, so the reason, just a little backtrack here. The reason why I say circle jerking your demons is because, and when I tell you about the 3 things that changed my life, it'll make a lot more sense. But I talk about circle jerking your demons because there's this thing that we have where we get stuck in a martyr zone, or we get stuck in a, I don't know how to phrase this aside from saying it how I really feel, which is like me being stuck in my 15-year-old self, right? Where it's like, the lights are off. I've got Marilyn Manson on, and I'm like, nobody understands me. Shadow work can quickly devolve into that if we are not careful. So it can be this thing where we sit around and think about how fucked up we are without any path forward, without any insight, and without any real growth attached to it. So there's a couple of different types of people. So sometimes there's people out there that really are in deep denial about their shadows, right? So when it comes to thinking about like, oh, is this my fault, or like, what are my negative qualities or whatever, like those are very difficult for those types of people to access, right? And we all are about something. Trust me. The funny thing about it is that other people see it and you don't. So that's why it's always important to be open. Now, the next type of person is somebody that is very much used to kind of martyring themselves and blaming themselves for everything. This is the camp that I typically fall into, where it's like, I tend to look around and go, how is this going to be my fault? Also not healthy, also not with a degree of openness there, right? Does that make sense? So it's kind of like looking for any reason to feed those demons, to feed those shadows. Okay. Hopefully this is all making sense to you. Oh, hello, Sasha. So that's kind of what we are talking about here. So to rewind, my name is Mandi M. I'm an author. I wrote this stack of stuff here. So my books, Witchcraft Therapy, Happy Witch, Shadow Work for Hot Messes. Ooh, Feral Self-Care is not here. Feral Self-Care is, I must have it somewhere else. And then this is the Witchcraft Therapy Oracle deck. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for supporting this channel. So I wrote those books, but where I came from, just so you guys know, is I was deeply mentally ill from childhood. And I don't say that in the past tense because I think it's just something that's always going to be a part of my life. But I've been able to channel and move the way that I used to kind of respond and react to things into a more healthier, more positive way, which is it resulted in a healthier, more positive life, right? And so essentially, first time I went to the psych ward, I was 17 years old. I started collecting quite a lot of diagnoses, which really resulted in this space of life, this phase of life, and this approach to life where I kind of viewed everything in the world as, I was really fucked up. I was fundamentally fucked up. I would never have a normal life. That was a really big one for me. I ended up having a baby at 19. I dropped out of high school. And then I ended up going back to school when I was 21 to get a degree in psychology. Life moves at you fast, people. So I have a lot of experience having a lot of shadows, and specifically having a lot of shadows that were running my life. There was a lot of really difficult things for me to face that I struggled to face because I wasn't fucking honest with myself. I was blaming everybody out there instead of looking within and figuring out, on what level am I participating in these struggles, right? So, like a lot of people, so we usually gather this shadowy stuff from childhood. So, to rewind, what is the shadow? So, can you guys just let me know, pop in the chat, what your experience with shadow work has been? Do you understand what the shadow is? Is this something that is a part of your awareness, a part of your world? Is it a part of your personal practice, right? Like, pop that in the chat, because I'm super curious where everybody is starting off, because I don't want to be covering things that are a little too basic. But essentially, the shadow is the subconscious aspects of ourself that we repress, that we stuff down into the trunk of our awareness, right? Now, it's important to note that this is fully subconscious. This is an unconscious thing that we're doing. Nobody is typically sitting there with their full conscious logic saying, oh, I'm just going to choose to not look at that. I'm going to choose to whatever. These are unconscious automatic processes. Now, Carl Jung is the shadow daddy. Now, he's the one who is accredited with coming up with the concept of the shadow, although shadow work, different forms of approaching these repressed aspects of the self, have been around, I think, since the beginning of human history, obviously, right? Because there's different cultures, whatever, that have different ways of approaching this. So there is a quote that is widely attributed to Jung, which is, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. This is what happens when we are not aware of what's going on in our subconscious mind and our subconscious processes, is because that can be going off in the distance. And so we can say we want certain things. We can try to get certain things. We can try to make change within ourselves. We can try and, operate in a way that is really serving us and the things we claim to want. But it's almost like having somebody that is like sabotaging you right behind your back, just kind of putting a fucking stick in your wheels the entire time. And that person, that element of yourself, is often the shadow. Okay. So the way that I approach shadow work is I approach it as a 3-step approach. Now, if you are watching this, please pop this in the chat. Have you ever had a moment where you have reacted to something and it's literally like your lower self has taken the wheel, and afterwards you go, holy shit, what the fuck was that? Because it was not you behaving in a way that you feel is in alignment with who you are, in alignment with your values, in alignment with your beliefs. If that's true for you, pop it in the chat. I would love to hear it. Let's normalize this shit, right? We tend to think that we are our ego. We tend to think that we are the person that we believe we are. And we are so much more beautiful, multidimensional, multifaceted, kaleidoscopic in nature than that. And the reason I'm saying it that way is I think this needs to be celebrated and normalized, right? We have more texture, more light, more of these things. And I think that that's really important to acknowledge. So I don't think we need to look at this as a bad thing. I think we need to look at it as we are even more rich, more robust, and more interesting than we maybe believed. So April is saying, oh, many times. Yes. So for me, I had a situation last year 2 years ago now. Holy Fuck, life moves fast. Jesus, this is why I don't believe in time. Okay. So last year, or 2 years ago, oh my Lord, I had a situation where we were dealing with customer service people a lot. And it was literally like this company, which, I wouldn't want to say, but I will say it's a phone company that rhymes with smellless, was giving us the absolute fucking run around after we had a death in the family. And I will tell you, there was a point where I was on the phone with customer service and I was not behaving in alignment with my values. Like, big time. And it was the sort of thing that even right now, thinking about it, I'm horrified, because it's like not in any way the way that I would want to behave. It was not in any way the way that I looked at the situation. Like, this person I'm talking to on the phone, it wasn't their fault, right? And so I remember getting off the phone and I just bawled. I bawled my eyes out. The cognitive dissonance, so this feeling that we get, this like weird, scratchy, sticky feeling we'll get into a little bit more, but like this feeling that came up inside me caused me a lot of grief, and it caused me a lot of shame and embarrassment and guilt. Man, I felt fucking bad. Like, I wish I could find that person so that I could send them a fruit basket, because it wasn't like I was, ripping them to shreds, but I definitely, I'm usually very nice to customer service people, and my lower self was on the phone that day. Okay. So this is part of what I call the perception phase of shadow work. So there's perception, there's investigation, and then there's integration. And the most important part is integration, you guys. These two don't mean shit unless you know what to do with it. What's the point of doing 500 journal prompts if you're just going to sit there with a bunch of pieces of paper or a full fucking journal telling you what a piece of shit you are, which might be what you believed already in the first place, back in the back of your mind, because your inner critic is running the show trying to sabotage shit. Okay? That's a thing. But what is the point of either of those things if you don't know what to do with that information? This is why I feel so passionately about shadow work. And this is why I feel so passionately about demystifying shadow work, because the integration key is what's going to change the world. The way you change yourself changes the way that you show up to the world. The way you change yourself changes the way that you parent, the way that you partner, the way that you show up in your community, the way you feel that you do or do not have agency over what happens in the larger world around us. This is why learned helplessness is a bad thing. Whew. Anyway, so that is kind of what we're talking about. So when we're talking about the investigation phase of shadow work, this is where we recognize that there is a problem. This is where we see something. So this could be, sometimes it's somebody that's really looking for love, but they haven't really dealt with their shadow when it comes to how they related to their parents or the trauma they had growing up. So they're meeting the same fucking person in different bodies. This is wild, right? People get in the same situations. How many people here have had a situation where it's like you end up in the same role, relationship after relationship after relationship? In every friendship, you end up being the bad guy. In every romantic relationship, you end up being the victim. This sort of stuff, right? This is the patterns be patterning on a subconscious level, because there is some tiny element that is typically, to some degree, either addicted to it. And that sounds very victim blamey, but we need to rise above this idea, because I'm sorry, sidetrack, but like in this world right now, there is so much permission giving, and I'm a huge permission giver, but there's so much of it that people absolve themselves of responsibility for things they can absolutely fucking engage in changing and healing. That's it. So it's important to say that. And again, I'm going to really roast the shit out of myself when I go through my 3 biggest shadow revelations. But when it comes to this perception phase, it's understanding, why am I always in this role? Right? So for me, it was always a victim. Oh my God, I always love people more than they love me. Like, I'm such a victim. Everything is not my fault. Why does bad shit only happen to me? Me. I live in the Western world. Okay. You know how fucking lucky I am? I got a roof. I got clothes on my back. I'm fed. Shut the fuck up. Okay. So every time We're going to do this. We're going to, it's cringe party, people. Girl, shut the fuck up. That was for me. So in this investigation phase, that's where we start looking at things like, how does my shadow influence my self-care, right? Do I not take care of myself on some level? Is there some part of me that feels like I don't deserve it? So my self-care is absolute dog shit. That can be a shadowy thing. That can be a place where we recognize it, where we see it. So we can look at how we judge others, what our self-concept is. This is so important. So in my situation, I had girl interrupted syndrome, you guys, to the max. I so fully and deeply identified with my diagnoses and my identity as being a person who is like too fucked up. I am too fucked up to do anything. Girl, shut the fuck up. So guys, it doesn't have to be something that you feel bad about. Like for me now, when I find shadows, when I'm doing shadow work, I try and bring as much fun, creativity, and playfulness to it as much as possible, because I'm going to judge myself, 9 times out of 10 anyway. So if I struggle with that, I need to bring some intentional levity to the situation. Overall, spirituality, healing, growth, overall, it does not have to be this serious thing where you're crying into a journal. You can have fun with it. So when we are looking at this in the perception phase, it's looking at the patterns, right? Looking at the self-sabotage. Is there anything that's coming up for you guys that you can maybe identify or maybe open up to? Is there something that you're feeling right now that could be in your investigation stage of behavior, right? What is your own personal mythology and lore, right? So I did a class a few years ago, a little course called I'm Fxcked the Narrative was what it was called. It was about hyper sigils, and it was about essentially trying to heal in reverse by looking into the past and figuring out and mining your stories, mining your mythology, your lore. Are you the princess in the castle that needs to be rescued? Or are you the fucking hero? And how we tend to view ourselves, our self-concept in that way. Oh, it's too bad. I should have linked it, but I have a really good video on self-concept. But that is kind of where these shadowy things comes up. This is where we can see these elements. How do we judge ourselves? What is our bad behavior? Like, when does that come up? So this is all in that perception phase. Okay, is that making sense to everybody? So I know for me personally, I have a little bit of hungry ghost syndrome. So we're going to say it like that. Now, the last live I did, I talked about Aubrey Marcus and that whole situation. Thank you so much for all the love on that, you guys. If you haven't watched it already, I have it linked down below. But I did say in that video that I was definitely projecting. So projecting is this thing when you kind of externalize the things you feel yourself onto other people, right? And I definitely said that I was projecting because all of my abandonment wounds were triggered thinking about what his wife must be going through, et cetera, et cetera. But I was also projecting in the sense that I see a hungry ghost syndrome in him that I have so deep within me that I have to deal with all of the time. And so that is also something that I externalized. Right. So hungry ghost syndrome is a concept in Buddhism. I'm not Buddhist, but I love this concept as a metaphor for the human experience, which is essentially this idea that there's these entities or creatures that are hungry. They got big and they've got this bloated belly, these tiny mouths. They can't get fed. It's like it's never, ever going to be enough, ever. And I have this. I never met my dad. My mom didn't like me so much. I had all sorts of crazy shit in my childhood that made me think that no matter what, I will never be good enough. And this is something that a lot of people can relate to. I'm really lucky to have gotten to a place where it doesn't hold me back anymore. But I have written 4 traditionally published books and a deck, and yet it is still never going to make me feel like I can earn the validation of people when I was young, right? So it's important to notice when you have these things. It's important to have this in your perception. What are your issues? How is your shadow coming up? That sort of thing. Now, when we get into investigation, so the investigation phase is when we often do the actual work. So this is when we do the journal prompts. This is when we start diving in. Where did these feelings come up? What are they attached to? That sort of stuff. The investigation part can be really fun. And this is where I really like to bring creativity to the mix. So instead of doing journal prompts, maybe you're going to draw a shadow, a particular shadow. Oh my gosh, we need to look at, do I have it with me? I should have set up with my stuff so I could show you. I hosted a live ritual for my friends group where we did this practice from my book together, which was drawing one of your shadows. So this was one of mine. Okay. It's not a, it doesn't have to be a high art sort of thing. It's a processing emotion sort of thing. And this is my hungry child. This is one of my shadows. So I contain a hungry child. The hungry child is me. And this is basically the part of me that gets very angry and starts screaming to get her needs met. This is the part of me that comes out when my family is sick and I have to take care of everybody, but I'm also sick. And so I'm like, me. When really this is just a very small part of myself that never felt like they got their needs met. And so they get very foot stompy, toddlerish, that sort of thing. So in the investigation part, this is when you really start to dive in and look at where these shadows came from, how they manifest in your life, how you actually feel. This is the exploration part. Now I'm just going to look at the chat here for a second. Journaling and using tarot and oracle decks. That's so amazing. Yes. Same people in different bodies when we were talking about that. Yes. In the investigation phase. And again, guys, please like this video. It helps this channel so much. And feel free to drop your comments below or your questions below. Now, the third phase of the shadow is integration. So this is where you kind of take all those demons you've dug up in phase 2 and all that information you got in phase 1, and you figure out, what the fuck are we going to do with this? What am I going to do with this? If you write in a journal, oh my gosh, I have a tendency to make everybody around me feel responsible for me, blah, 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 yada, 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 right? Then what? Integration is when you go, okay, I have this tendency, I have this shadow, I have this aspect or element of myself that truly does exist. Okay, so like what now? Okay, so what now? Because is that information actually helpful for us if we can't figure out what to do about it? And often, I will say, the shadow is often some part of ourselves that is trying to be protective. So in the example I just gave with that hungry child, which is one of my shadows that I've identified, it's the function of that is really to get my needs met, right? So there's a part within me that felt like it didn't get its needs met. And so this part comes out as a protective mechanism. I truly believe that the realm of the shadow and this shadowy cast of characters we have, which when you get to integration, you have to actually acknowledge that these are all part of you. So when you're doing the investigation phase, sometimes it can help to externalize them so that you can put it out here, turn it around, look at it, flip it over, figure it out. But then at a certain point, you're not going to get anywhere until you do the integration, which means recognizing that all those parts are you. And they are part of this kaleidoscopic, multidimensional whole that is the beautiful and unique person and being that you are. So, okay. You guys, I get so sweaty. I get so passionate. I just get going here. I need a big fan, I think, like one of those hand fans. Okay. Are we following? Are we good? Are we good? Okay. So now thinking of the behavior model when it comes to the shadow, and this is so important, you guys. So behavior is functional. Behavior is deeply functional. Even behavior that we don't consciously mean to do, even unconscious behavior, subconscious behavior, almost always is functional. Now, the typical functions of behavior are to obtain something. So, attention could be something, to avoid something, right? To get away from something, whether it be a difficult emotion within you or a difficult situation, et cetera, or for stimulation. That's another thing. Some behavior is literally just for stimulation, right? Which is interesting. So behavior is typically a form of communication. So in my old line of work, we worked with developmentally disabled adults who were nonverbal in a lot of cases, and so we had to look at behavior as functional in order to be able to cross a bridge, right? To be able to gain understanding, to gain communication. So it's very, very important. And so when we're talking about behavior and we're talking about behavior as functional, we have to be really brutally honest with ourselves and understand what this behavior gets us. What is this behavior getting us? Actually, no, we're going to continue on to the ABC model. So with the ABC model of behavior, which is also what we used to do at my old work, is essentially ABC is, so antecedent, which means what is the shit that came before the behavior. So what happened? Behavior is the behavior. And consequence, which, in opposition to popular culture, what we think of consequence, we think of that as a negative thing. Consequence is just the result of the behavior. What happened after? What happened before? What the behavior was? What happened after? So a consequence can be positive or negative. Now, if we're looking at the function of behavior, so in my old line of work, say we were at somewhere that was really overstimulating, we were at a public event or something like that, and some of the people would get overstimulated, some of our clients. The antecedent would be large crowds, overstimulation, lots of different people. Maybe there was things in there about, factors such as what kind of sleep they had, that sort of thing. The behavior, we would often get violence, people acting out, like things like that, because there was that lack of being able to communicate in a verbal way. And the consequence would be that person would get removed from the situation. Now, in that example, if that makes sense and you can kind of understand, picking up what I'm throwing down here, what we would do if we could understand the consequence of what they're getting and the antecedent, we would know, number one, not to put people in that situation. That's a big one. But number two is, like, if you can see that behavior coming, you can circuit break the pattern, right? By giving the consequence that is being looked for beforehand. So I'm going to give you an example when it comes to actual shadow work. Okay. Are we ready for this? Are you ready? Are you ready? Thank you for putting up with me. Okay, so we're going to give an example, and it is going to be about romantic jealousy. This is my favorite example to use because it's something that I've dealt with in the past before, because I had the plague of insecurity, and we're going to talk about this in a moment. So say you have relationship insecurity, and really, truly, if we're being honest, it has nothing to do with your relationship. It has to do with your self-concept and what you believe is true and possible for yourself. Do you love yourself? Do you believe that you deserve to be loved on a subconscious level? Mayhaps not, and that can cause all sorts of bullshit. So say you have a pattern of relationship instability and jealousy, and when your partner say runs into their ex or whatever the case may be, your behavior ends up being having a full-on meltdown and they have to give you reassurance. Here's the example, set in the scene. So your partner goes out and he sees his ex at the fucking Costco, and he's like, oh, not that bitch. And she's like, oh, not that bitch. And then they're like, hi, whatever. And then he comes home and he's like, oh, I saw Laura today. And you're like, Laura. And it makes you fall into a spiral that means that you get the reassurance. So in this situation, the antecedent would be that your jealousy or insecurity is triggered. The behavior is lashing out, acting out, and the consequence is getting reassurance. Can anybody here tell me how you would circuit break that pattern, given what we just talked about the function of behavior and about circuit breaking using the ABC model? If you know, pop it in the chat because I would love to see it. But if not, I'm still going to yap anyway because that's just what your girl does here. So to circuit break that pattern, if you were aware of it. So this is the importance of being conscious and intentional and understanding your shadow. This is why it's worthwhile to do shadow work, because that kind of behavior, that kind of bullshit can erode your confidence further, and it can erode your relationships. People might just be like, oh my God, I just can't deal with that person. They're just too much. There's just too much, because they're externalizing their healing, looking for shit on the outside that they need to actually get from the inside, because there's nothing else but what's within us. So to circuit break that pattern, what you would have to do is be like, oh, I saw Laura at Costco. I don't know why I'm saying Laura. I don't even know if I know a Laura. I saw Laura at Costco. And then you recognize, oh my God, I'm activated. I'm triggered. Now, what you could do is go, okay, just so you realize, I'm really dealing with a bit of this jealousy. I recognize it has nothing to do with you. I recognize you've done nothing wrong. This is fully an internal thing for me. So you could either take the time to step back and give yourself that reassurance, or do the sort of preemptive work that it takes to work on your own confidence. Or alternatively, you could say to your partner, I'm feeling activated. If you have capacity and if you're interested, I would love to get a little reassurance, even though I recognize this has nothing to do with you. That would just be a way to be fully transparent about that situation, in order to not always devolve into that behavior. And as we know with behavior change, and as we know with healing, as we know with growth, as we know with any of this shit, it takes fucking reps. It's like anything. We have to put in the reps. We have to put in the messy kind of approaches where things you don't feel like you're good at it yet. And yet you have to kind of persist. Is that making sense to everybody? Feel free to pop any questions, any thoughts, or anything down in the chat. Now, I'm just looking here for the post I did the other day on Instagram and Facebook, because I want to tell you guys about my most cringe shadow work revelations that changed my life, changed my relationships, and changed what I was capable and conscious of doing. The fact that I have written this many books, the fact that I'm in front of you people right now, the fact that I am in somewhat the public eye, is something that I never, ever, ever would have anticipated for myself. It was never in my life plan. And it was something that I deeply, deeply subconsciously, still to this day, reject on some level. So it's really important to note that when you do shadow work, it's not a one and done thing. Now, with this investigation piece, I'm just gonna tell you guys those 3 shadow revelations that changed my life. And again, these might be triggering for you, and if they are, I apologize. Your mileage may vary, but if there's any part of you that can see yourself in it, just be open. Just be open. Because for me, these things, I had little inklings of these things through the years, and I just wasn't ready to face them, and that's okay. But I will tell you, my life has catapulted into a dramatically different place as of recognizing them. Okay. So, shadow work revelation number 1. Wearing my insecurity on my sleeve. I was very outwardly insecure. So it was almost like I'd meet people and I'd be like, hi, I'm Mandi. I'm very insecure. Like, it was like literally so ridiculous. And I can laugh about it now, because when things are deeply embarrassing or cringing to me, I have learned to use that as a source of power. Like, when I feel that within me, it's almost like a kink. I'm like, oh, I'm so deeply embarrassing right now. But I know that we're all human beings having a flawed human experience. And there's really nothing to be embarrassed about, because every single member of our species walks around trying to have it all figured out, or pretending they have it all figured out. Those are my favorites. I love that. I can't imagine what it would be like to actually sustain that, like, over long term. But none of us have it figured out. The average lifespan is, I don't know what it is now, 100 years. I don't know. Bitches be living a long ass fucking time right now. I'll tell you that, which is a blessing. But what happens is we can live that long and still not have it figured out. Nobody has it figured out. We come into this world not knowing shit, and we come out of it knowing a little bit more, but like ultimately in the drop of the infinite cosmos and universe, whatever, we still don't know shit. That's just the way it is. And that's okay. And we can hold space for that. Do you judge a toddler when they're licking windows? Do you judge a toddler when it's out there saying some dumb shit? Do you judge a toddler when it's out there doing some dumb shit? No, because we understand and recognize that they're not working at the same capacity as we are. And yet we walk around in our lives looking around thinking there's some bar to measure up to, when really the bar is bullshit. We invented it, we made it up, and then we use it to like whip ourselves into submission. Absolutely fucking not. I don't like it. Preach. So, wearing my insecurity on my sleeve was subconsciously manipulative behavior. Ooh. Okay, letting the cringe move through me, letting it move through me. Wearing my insecurity on my sleeve was subconsciously manipulative behavior. This is an unpopular opinion, but one that once I recognized this changed my whole life. I got confident. I stopped judging the shit out of other people because projection is a hell of a drug. Okay. And once you actually allow yourself to live your truth, live your fullness, if you see other people doing that, regardless of what it looks like, you don't give a fuck. You're too busy doing you. That's the way it works. So this put me in a, where my freaking cup? This put me in a position of getting constant reassurance from others. And by making everything about how I wasn't good enough, I essentially backed others into a corner of not being able to criticize or reject me without being the bad guy. Now, if I had my crystal crown on, my spiritual bullshit hat on, I would say, ooh, this is so juicy. This is so juicy. It's like a big old fucking peach, okay? So this was a hard truth to face, but one that revolutionized my energy, how I showed up to the world, my relationships. I had a higher quality of relationships because, I mean, the kind of people don't want to deal with that kind of bullshit. On some level, it's repellent, obviously, because you feel like you're backed into a corner. And then my own self-worth, okay? So why we were doing this. So we need to look at it with compassion. I talk a lot of shit because to me, that's how I cope is humor. I use humor to process. I use humor to like embrace my cringe, that sort of thing. But deeply, deeply thinking about it, me doing that was a self-protective mechanism. This was a way of me protecting myself. Please don't reject me. I'm tender, right? Please, like understand that I need love. Please understand that. But it wasn't until I internalized that and said, bitch, you need to take responsibility for this. And you need to heal your own self-confidence and recognize that it's never going to come from out there, even if it were my parents, even if it was my this or that. Literally, it doesn't come from the outside. It has to come from the inside. It has to, right? So that was my cringy truth number one, that it doesn't actually make me cringe anymore, but like, ooh, it definitely gives that kinky feeling. Revelation number two that changed my life. And this one is a doozy, guys. So stay with me. Please stay with me. This one is going to be the most triggering. Stay with me. Revelation number two. And this is deeply personal. But I don't give a fuck because my sacred goal in life is to get other people to learn from my fails. My identity as a mentally ill person, and I was deeply, profoundly mentally ill with all sorts of diagnoses. Okay. So they said I had schizoaffective disorder. They said I had borderline personality disorder. They said I had depression. I actually have treatment resistant depression. So most of my issues were treatment resistant. And then eventually, like now, I don't even fit the criteria for all that stuff. Okay. So it is possible to change, just so you guys know. So my identity as a mentally ill person absolved me of taking responsibility for my life. This was one of the hardest things to face. And I will tell you, it didn't happen me sitting around in a journal. It absolutely didn't. I had little inklings of this for years. I had other people point it out and I denied, stuff. I don't like that truth, so I'm going to blindfold it, gag it, and shove it in the trunk of my awareness because absolutely fucking not. Absolutely fucking not. I started collecting formal diagnoses when I was a teenager at my first psych ward visit. I ended up on disability and needing other people to make a lot of my life decisions. My entire personality was wrapped up in my identity as a person who is too ill to function. So I decided everything was off limits for me because I was broken. I would not be here in front of you right now if I had stuck to that, if I didn't face that on some level. And if I am not telling you this was a cakewalk, this was fucking hard as hell. This is a hard truth to face, but one that I'm grateful for every day because my diagnoses don't define me. I actually don't even identify with my diagnoses anymore, except for ADHD. And I'm weaning myself off that one because that also makes me feel limited. And I don't believe in limitations. Preach. Okay, I'm going to pop into the chat here for a moment to catch up. So if you want to say some shit to me, if you want to like this video, whatever, help your girl out here. Okay. And then I'll move on to the third one. So yes, I basically tell people I'm an imposter to cope with imposter syndrome. Me too. It's so funny. And I catch myself saying that shit sometimes. And you can even catch me if I'm on a live or if I'm doing a live session in my group or anything like that. Sometimes I'll say it and it's like you can almost catch on a like micro level where it's like, I'm like, don't do it. It's like, Ray, oh, hi. Oh, yeah, feel free to rewatch it later. Guys, I'm so appreciating how much of my shit you guys are watching. It really means a lot to me. You guys have been liking my videos. You guys have been subscribing. Guys, you guys have been sharing my fucking videos, sharing my channel with people. And it's like, it's been wild on this end because I was so scared to move to YouTube. And now I'm like, oh my God, people are supporting me there even more than the other. I was so afraid, right? So once you get to, you know, a certain point on other platforms, it can feel scary to move away. But like, I just had to do it for my spirit, for my soul. It was my shadow keeping me there. It was my victim. It was my martyr shadow. So I just really appreciate you guys. I appreciate you sharing my channel and I appreciate you guys engaging. And it just means a lot to me. It's still crazy to me that anybody gives a shit what I have to say. I have people message me about my books and shit all the time. And it's just wild. It's been a wild ride. So I really appreciate you guys. Okay, moving on to revelation number 3, because this cringe party needs to be cringing. Okay. I was deeply addicted to victimizing myself and blaming other people. So I was abused from a very early age, mentally, emotionally, and physically. This dramatically shaped how I viewed myself in the world. Obviously, that's what happens, right? But at a certain point, that shit wasn't coming from outside the house. The call is coming from inside the house, right? At a certain point, the abuse was no longer coming from the outside, but from within. So I grabbed that baton to victimize myself as like a relay. And I was like, I grabbed that bitch. And I just kept fucking running with it. Okay. I grabbed the baton to victimize myself. And baby, I made an Olympic level sport out of it. Gold medalist. Blaming my parents, blaming people who victimized me, blaming people who abuse me, blah, 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 blah. Do they have some blame in how I view the world or this or that or whatever? I don't know. Does it fucking matter where I am right now? Blame is the dumbest shit. Anyway, side note. Blame, closure, whatever. Like, how does it fucking help? Does it help? If it doesn't help, then what's the fucking use of it? That's circle jerking your demons, right? Oh, I wish this, I wish that. Yeah. Well, fucking, what's that? Wish in one hand, shit in the other. Is that the thing? It makes me think of when someone's sleeping and you put shaving cream and then tickle their face and they're like, this was a hard truth to face, but one that's changed my perspective as I now ask myself, what part of me is participating in this struggle? And I will tell you, I have several struggles. I have plenty of struggles. And I obviously am still very deeply addicted to the struggle because there are people out there that can go through the same experience and one person will not even recognize it as a struggle and the other person will feel deeply victimized by it. There's a lot of factors that factor into that. But I will say that if something is activating, so if you are triggered, if something is activating a core wound, so in my shadow workbook, we talk about that. Every trigger is the long finger coming out of a deeper body of a core wound. So if what happens doesn't trigger you, it might not be attached to a core wound, right? So for example, someone could come up to me and say, Mandi, you look like a stapler or something. That was so bad, but I'm live. So what are we going to do? Okay. Unfiltered. Mandi, you look like a stapler. There's no part of me that cosigns that. So I would be like, okay, thanks for the feedback. But if someone said, Mandi, you're a fraud and a piece of shit and you're going to die alone, I'd be like, why are you being so mean to me? That would trigger me, right? If someone said something that would activate my deepest core wounds of like rejection, of unworthiness, or whatever, right? That would be a trigger for me. Same way as before I was confident, other people out there doing them, living their lives, being confident in themselves, that was deeply triggering for me. And it was because I didn't want to face that I had bought into some bullshit. So when I saw other people not buying into the bullshit, I was like, how dare they? Look at me. I'm over here following the rules, not being the person I want to be, not doing the things I want to do. And that person dares to do it. And so that looks like, oh, that person does cosplay. Or, oh, that person does, like, the kind of fucking judgments that's out there. And now that I have confidence, I am so deeply happy and so deeply like enthusiastic for other people being their authentic self, even if it makes no absolute fucking sense to me whatsoever. But it's because it's not activating a deeply unhealed part of me anymore, So hopefully that makes sense. So those were my deeply embarrassing shadow things. Now, I believe it's you can want in one hand and shit in the other and see which one fills up first. That's right. It's funny because when I started saying it, all I could think of was the Green Day song back from way back when I was a little child. I'm gonna be 42 this year, guys. So I don't know if my references are gonna land, but here we are. So, when it comes to shadow integration, the key to shadow integration is to basically take any part of you that is embarrassed, shameful, guilty, whatever, and like kick its ass right out the fucking door. Any part of you that is cringing, any part of you that is judging, any part of you is whatever, kick that bitch out the door. We are flawed humans having a flawed human experience. All of these parts of ourselves that feel bad, that feel guilty, that feel shame. Oh my God, I can't believe I do this. Oh, and if that hurts, we get it. Like for me, it literally feels like this, right? When we get to that place, if we don't sit with it and if we don't get to how do I say it? If we can't hold that in our body and let it pass through us, turn it into something creative, turn it into something better, it's going to eat us alive and we're going to repress it. And we might not want to face it and it's going to take even longer. So when that guy comes up, oh, I feel so good. Oh, I don't want to. Shut the fuck up. Respectfully. Seems a little bit counterintuitive to talk to yourself like that when I'm talking about radical self-acceptance, but I love humor. Humor is healing. Okay. I've been through a lot of trauma and been working through it lately. I've been triggered a lot. Yes. And it's like waves, right? Sometimes we don't have the energy to heal. Sometimes we don't have it. We have to understand and be radically honest with ourselves to know when it's time to push and when it's time to pull back. The only person that is going to be able to tell that to you and give that to you is you. So it's so amazing that you've even recognized that. So amazing that you've even recognized that, which brings us to the next point. So when it comes to integration, we're talking about radical self-acceptance and not judging ourselves. So everybody has known somebody who has a pet that's like, oh, you actually can't look at that, that dog, that's my friend's little dog. Yeah, she can't look at the color blue without barking. Oh yeah, well, if you talk to her too much, she might start eating her own tail or some shit. Like we all know somebody that has like a pet like that. Maybe you have a toddler, maybe you got kids, something like that. This is deeply understandable. And we think it's adorable. We're like, oh my God, that's so cute. Like, look at that. Oh my God, they're so neurotic. That's crazy. But when it comes to ourselves, we start playing the blame game. We start playing the shame game, the judgment game, all of that sort of stuff, which is deeply unhelpful because again, it causes us to repress more. It causes us to stuff shit down even more. And that's what we are not wanting to be doing, because integration is about taking that shit that we have learned about ourselves and unfolding it into our outward expression and part of our actual ego. Okay. So a really good example for this, for me, would be I deeply love attention. I'm so happy you guys are here. I'm so happy to be here talking to y'all. I deeply love attention. I grew up in the 90s where wanting attention was a cardinal sin. This is a cardinal sin. Could you imagine people taking selfies back in the 90s? Back in the 90s, if you like passed a store window and you kind of glanced in it, people would go, I bet you're obsessed with yourself, you stupid bitch. Like, it's like literally that's the way things were. And it's mind boggling. But now there's so much more in the realm of like empowerment, confidence, whatever that has become mainstream. So when we pick our shadow up, typically it comes from, how we were raised, a lot of our caregivers' expectations, also our culture, our society. What's taboo for one person and one society might not be for someone else in another. But I deeply love attention. And for a long time, I refused to admit I liked attention because I was told that it was bad to want attention. Even when I was a little kid, it was like, oh my God, like she's too loud. What, like, why are you such a performer? Why do you want this? Why do you want that? Well, guess what? My life was a drama factory for a really long time because I had repressed my desire for attention. And it's like, girl, join a theater class. Like, literally. Join, like, we can take these elements of ourselves that we have labeled bad and wrong, and we can just kind of like reorient them to something that serves us and take them in as part of our outward expression. So I've really been in my healing my attention whore era in the last few years when it comes to being online, when it comes to being, I do mostly comedy on Instagram, but I ended up with like 50,000 followers, which is insane to me still. And followers don't mean anything, just so you guys are aware of that. If you're a creative or anything, just so you know, like, follower counts doesn't mean shit. Don't let anyone tell you it does. But it was very hard for me to be seen for such a deeply long time. It was such a crazy urge. And once I started going, no, I do want that. I do desire that. Let's give this a healthy outlet. Then I changed my relationship to that shadow. That was no longer something that I was stuffing down, that was leaking out everywhere. Because that's the thing. When we repress things, they start leaking out. I'm not mad. 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 And then all of a sudden you drop a pen and you're like, motherfucker! That's how it works. Guys, when I get too loud, the crystal bowls start singing back on me, and it's actually kind of funny. I feel like I'm getting co-signed by angels. My drug of choice is also attention. Woo! Tension Whore Club. High five up top. Yes, so true about the 90s. It was wild in the 90s, you guys. Like, literally, sometimes I think about like selfie culture and I'm just like, man, I saw like a TikTok or something once where they're like, what's cool now that wasn't cool when you were a kid? And the person was like being a hoe. Which was like absolutely it. It's totally that like be yourself, no, not like that kind of thing. I was told that my natural curly hair was ugly and straight hair was better. Fuck that. I started letting my hair be wild and natural the last 2 years. I love that so much. Healthy attention, yes. So right now I have kids that are, so I have 3 kids. One of them is quite a lot older. He's already grown. He's the one I had at 19, but I have 2 younger kids. And it's really funny because I've been talking with my 8-year-old a lot about other people's judgments and opinions. Just because someone says some shit doesn't make it true. And that includes you. And I say that to myself every day. Is this true because it's true, or is this true because I believe it's true? So when we're talking about the integration aspect of shadow work, it requires us to take shame, judgment, guilt out of the equation. Now, that it sounds like that's a really hard thing to do, but it doesn't have to be. Like, treat yourself like a toddler. Tell yourself, how many lifetimes do you think somebody would have to live to have it all figured out? It ain't one, and it certainly ain't half a one. So depending on the age you're at, you're not even close. You're going to go to your deathbed not knowing it all. And that's okay. That's part of the beauty of this experience, the wonder of this experience. Could you imagine if we were all born pre-installed and what would we have to do? We would have nothing to do. So we'd probably be a bunch of dramatic bitch motherfuckers because we'd be bored as shit. I think that's why, people think, oh, money can buy you happiness, whatever. You always hear about rich people drama. It's because it's the same shit. Wherever you go, there you are. So we bring our problems, our whatever. we bring it all into everything with us. So it's important when we're talking about shadow integration to recognize these parts of ourselves. So you sat there with a journal, you dug up some demons, right? Where do you go from there? What do you do from that? Right? How do you take it and find healthier ways to integrate those elements of yourself, to give them a space to shine, to give them a place, right? So it's very important to take judgment out of the equation. A lot of it is contextual as well, right? So if you were to look over your fence and you see your neighbor peeing on the ground, you'd probably be like, bitch, what are you doing? But if you looked over the fence and you saw a dog peeing on the ground, you would probably be like, well, that's totally normal. Well, guess what? We're all animals. So this is really, it's a construct, it's societal, it's all of these different things. Now we're going to talk about healing hangovers. So a healing hangover is what happens when you treat yourself as a problem that needs to be fixed. So a lot of us suffer from this in the spiritual healing worlds, is this like, I got to be better. I have to be my highest self. I have to be the highest iteration of my highest version of myself, blah, 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 blah. And like, if you treat yourself as a problem to be solved, you are not going to be happy. You are not going to experience life. You are constantly going to be chasing, striving. There's a point where you have to allow yourself to just be. There is a point where you have to allow yourself to just be who you are. And really, part of integration is doing just that. So integration isn't about learning all the things, doing all the things, chasing all the things, blah, 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 blah. It is about allowing yourself the space to just be. So integration is, okay, we have this information. What do we do it now? We do the things. This feels like a really good opportunity right now to let you guys know. If you look in the description below, there is a free Feral Self-Care starter pack. You can download that. It comes with a guided meditation and 3 quickie practices, because my work is all about things being actionable. And the reason for that is because of integration. A lot of us in the spiritual path tend to read books, read all the information, learn all the things, but the really important thing is praxis. Praxis is taking the theory and putting it into practice, into action. So I have a seasonal membership called the Feral Self-Care Collective. And so the next season starts in July, and guys, it's going to be amazing. But this is all about praxis. So in this program, you get 12 weeks, and each week, once a week, we present you with an hour to an hour and a half of an activity that we actually just do. So we do creative art stuff, because again, I think that the shadow can be done in more creative ways. So we've done like collage things, we've done painting things. I also get 6 guest speakers per season. Next season speakers are going to be fucking incredible. But basically, this whole program is for this concept. Praxis. No more intellectual masturbation, right? Getting your hands dirty, doing the work. And it's amazing what you can unlock if you do the work for even just 1 hour to an hour and a half per week. Hashtag just saying. So that all the information for that is below. You can get on the wait list for the next season. You can download that free shit, because we worked really hard on it. We hope you like it. Sarah is saying, going to testify that the seasonal membership is so fun and great. Sarah! Preach. And thank you. I appreciate that so much. So we, it helps keep us good too, right? Because for me, I've had some really hard times where I'm like, oh my God, but I know I'm facilitating a session tonight, and that's going to be my way of like actually slowing down and doing the things. So be sure to grab that shit down there. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about shadow work? I got 2 questions from Instagram that I'm just going to go look at and answer those. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and I will get to them. Thank you to everybody who's been liking this video. Thank you to everybody who's shared my videos. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. If you like crazy old ladies that yell a lot with big hair. Okay, So one of the questions I got from Instagram, and again, if you have questions, feel free to pop them below. Of course, we couldn't cover everything about shadow work, but I think this is basically like everything you need to get started. And if you want like the prompts, the creative activities, whatever, go check out my book. There's a link in there as well. So this is a workbook, you guys. This is half. So I find a lot of shadow workbooks are like mostly just prompts or like mostly blank pages, and that just bothers me. So this book is a combination of like written stuff and then like engaging activities, right? So let's see. Keeping score, challenging envy and judgment. And so each chapter kind of walks you through some shadowy issues through the lens of that 3-step approach. And then each chapter also has integration tips woven throughout. And then prompts, there's, prompts, fill in the blanks, that sort of thing. So this is not a shadow workbook that is just prompts. It is a shadow workbook that is like part, book, like actual tons of writing and shit like that. And then part prompts. So yeah. Ooh, I love this. Debunking bodies of evidence. That's one of my favorite topics to talk about is bodies of evidence. So here are the questions that I got from Instagram. What is a dark or taboo topic you've never felt comfortable discussing? I'm going to end on that one. So golden shadow. So the golden shadow, and like shout out to anybody who is in my membership, because the other night I facilitated a session and I called it golden showers. Oh, and it was so funny. It was literally hilarious. And then I almost did it again. And then I was doing like a guided active imagination thing. And I was like in my head going like, don't say golden showers again. Don't say golden showers again. Guys, I promise you, I'm not nowhere near as kinky as I come across. Okay, so when it comes to the golden shadow, so Jung actually didn't only talk about your shadow being like the monstrous bits of you, the part that you don't want other people to see, the dark negative bits, the things that we feel bad about. There's also this element of golden shadow. So golden shadow is the light aspects of ourselves, the childlike wonder, the optimism, our confidence, our creative self-expression, our free self-expression. For many of us, that also gets banished into the realm of the shadow. So when it comes to the golden shadow, these are pulling out light aspects of yourself and recognizing that they've been repressed and letting yourself feel safe to express them fully. So I will say my own confidence was very much in the golden shadow realm. My free self-expression, being who I am, who is loud, who is obnoxious, who is I don't give a fuck, right? Being who I was in my realm of the golden shadow. But it's important that we connect to those aspects of ourselves, and that can feel deeply unsafe because then it can feel like even more raw and more vulnerable. It's like those dreams where you're in front of your entire class butt ass naked. That's what it feels like. If I have the courage to be myself out here, what if the people will, they're going to judge you. They're going to talk shit about you. They're going to drive by. They're not going to understand you. They're not going to whatever. But at the end of the day, when you're on your deathbed, are you going to say that you lived for bare minimum bitches? Or are you going to say that you did everything you fucking could to live your life to the fullest, which means that you are not fighting yourself. You're not dividing your energy, putting up a front. And it's extremely hard to do, but it can be fun. And you can really get off on the audacity of doing it. When you do it and you're like, oh, and just take all that discomfort and use it as an activator. So that's the golden shadow. There's lots more to say about that, but it's important to acknowledge that there is the golden shadow. Now, your shadow work should never feel too terrible, but also should never feel too comfortable. If there's not shit you're facing that you're like cringing a little, you might need to dig deeper. Okay. My esteem was better in my Jinko jeans. Oh my God, I love those. Going to test. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. I'm going to get your shadow workbook. I like how you do things differently. Thank you so much. I need a tattoo that says "Don't live for bare minimum, bitches." Don't we all? Okay, so here's the next question, and I'm going to end on this because this is going to be deeply problematic. But I know most people don't watch to the end, and so y'all are going to get the unfiltered version. What's a dark or taboo topic you've never felt comfortable discussing? Politics. I think it's all bullshit. And that is a deeply unpopular opinion this day and age where everything is like this or that, right or wrong, light or dark, like my brain just can't comprehend it. And so politics is something that I feel very ill-equipped to talk about to one degree, especially on the internet where everything is very American centric, and I'm Canadian, and you can get those like drive-by comments where they're like, I bet you can tell who you voted for. Bitch, yeah, I'm not even in the same goddamn circus as you, okay? So back the fuck off. So politics is definitely one thing that I don't feel comfortable discussing, and I don't discuss on any of my platforms because I feel like you literally cannot get away from it. And so my programs, even my free group, there's a link to my free group below. My free group, my programs, my whatever. They're all politics free, and it's not like I don't care. I understand everything is political, right? But I choose not to use my platform in that way. So that is something that I never feel comfortable discussing. I would say the thing that is the most deeply uncomfortable for me currently is that I try and help people reach a state where they're living in a way that orients towards positivity, joy, creativity, and like getting out of autopilot and feeling alive, right? This is kind of what we're doing in the Feral Self Care Collective. This is what I try and do with my work. And I will tell you, talking about imagination, optimism, hope, light, all of that stuff feels very deeply wrong and taboo right now at this particular moment in time where we can watch the world burn in real time, and it's considered virtuous to do so, even though there are actual companies that are making money, profiting, feasting like vultures on our virtue. This is not to say that you should not be informed or anything like that. It's just to say that it's been an interesting thought shift that has happened, coinciding with our level of connection with the world. So that, I guess those would be like the two things that feel very uncomfortable or off limits for me to talk about. It's a hard question to answer because I talk about pretty much everything. I talk about pretty much everything pretty openly, pretty freely. But yeah, those are two things that are kind of feel wrong or like taboo, something like that. Okay, so if you guys don't have any questions, then I will let you all go for the day. But thank you guys so much for being here. Again, if you have not subscribed, feel free to subscribe to this channel. Please like this video. Please share it, drop a comment, whatever. You guys are so helpful. And I just love this community so, so much. Make sure you download the freebie below because it's some fun shit. And yeah, I hope you guys have like a super good rest of your day.